Welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish. I'm your host, Juliette Clark, and today is part 2 of Tracy Hazzard's trainings. We split it up, and if you missed the first one, which was on podcast guesting and really content rich, you can go over to podcastbookpromo.com, pick up that recording there. And today is all about part 2, which is how do you promote once you've been a good guest? What makes you a guest that people want to have back again and again, and will refer to their other podcaster friends. So stay tuned for that. A little bit about Tracy Hazzard if you missed the last one. She is a seasoned media expert with over 2,600 interviews from articles in Authority Magazine, BuzzFeed, and her Inc. magazine column, and from her top-ranked multiple video casts and podcasts like The Binge Factor and Feed Your Brand, one of CIO's top 26 entrepreneur podcasts. Tracy brings diverse views from what works and what doesn't work in the marketing, branding, and media from thought leaders and industry icons, and redefining success around the globe. Tracy's unique gift to the podcasting, marketing, and branding world is being able to identify that unique bingeable factor, the thing that makes people come back again and again, listen actively, share as raving fans, and buy everything you have to sell. Now, before we get to Tracy, really quickly, I want to remind you about our July event. We're not having one. We didn't have one in June. We had our panel this month instead. In July, our guest is going to be Christy Johnson, and she's going to be talking about book development, the pregame show, getting ready to write your masterpiece. That will be on July 11th, and I hope to see all of you who want to write a book there, because the best books come from good developers. Stay tuned for Tracy. Tracy, welcome. What happened to Dorothy? She was here and then she wasn't.
Oh, no.
Okay, she'll be back. So take it away.
Well, I'm so glad everybody's here to talk about part 2, because this is the most important part of guesting. I think everyone thinks that it's getting the guest spot that's the most important part. But what you do with it matters more, because you can do a lot more with much less than you think once you understand how you're going to share out and promote your podcast episode that you were a guest on. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. Oop, it said I'm not turned on for sharing, Juliette.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Thought I had everything. Oh, it wants me to share.
We should have tested
everything
that.
set up. Okay, there we go.
Great. There we go.
Lost Nancy again too. Okay, go ahead.
It's okay. We'll just keep working it through. So what we're going to really talk about is that how to use that podcast interview so it's more valuable than just the PR ability of being on someone's show, right? It's got to be more than that. And too many people, because I've done well over 3,000 interviews total between my years doing it for Inc. magazine and now doing it for the various podcasts that I've had. And I can tell you, people don't do more than share it once and then never again. So I know so many of my guests never got the full value out of what they could be doing it. So we're going to talk about how to transform that, what you should transform it in, and then how you can use it for things like search engine optimization, getting them to your book landing pages with the right topics, networking, authority building, all kinds of opportunities once you utilize this repurposing of your guest spots. Having issues. Sorry, guys. There you go. Okay. So we talked a little bit about this at the end of last time, where we were talking about these advanced tactics. Our goal is to share, to get long-lasting value for it on our website, search engine optimization, basically in our niche. And then leverage that to get a bigger network. Because the whole point of going on somebody else's show is to get introduced to somebody else's audience, right? So we need to maximize our ability to do that piece. So that's everything that we're going to talk about today centers on these 3 principles. And we want to get all of them out of everything we do, because the last thing I want to do is just do one little thing that does one thing and then it's done. I want it to continually add value. I want it to do it again and again every time I reshare something or every time I embed something I want it to get long-term lasting value for me and for my business. So I do want to touch on social media from a strategic standpoint. I know you guys know how to share stuff, right? I'm very sure you guys know how to share stuff. But one of the most underutilized things that when I share somebody as a guest on my show, they rarely do these 4 things on the post that I made. So you want to do this on the post that your guest made. And then we're good, or that your host made, sorry. You want to do this on the show, that the episode, the shares, any share, all the shares that center around your episode that you were a guest on. So every time that host shares something, you need to like it. Every time that host shares something, you need to comment on it, even if the comment is as inane as thank you, right? It doesn't really matter. If you only have time for that right now, hit thank you as soon as possible. These 2 things, do them as immediate, within 24 hours. So you know how sometimes the host will send you an email saying, hey, your post just went live today, or your episode just went live today. That's the day you go check their social media and keep checking it. And make sure you like and comment every time. And then when it posts, just immediately reshare it. Make a little comment, add a little personal commentary ahead of it, but then reshare it. And when you reshare it, add a hashtag. But this hashtag needs to be something that's going to help you sell your book, not your book title, not your name. It is a hashtag for the category, for the niche. Rom-com, if that's what it is. Self-help, we were talking about before, any kind of spirituality, anything that is in your niche. Try to create it really specific so it would be the core key topic. Then it's your turn to do stuff. That's what this is, right? Tips and quotes, clips and highlights. These are the things that we do. You want to do them in squares. You want to do them in verticals, so they look like that. You want to create stories. Anything that you want to do, you have got so many AI tools that you can use for this. You can drop the video into Google Gemini or ChatGPT, and you can ask it to give you memorable quotes. You can even tell it that I want those quotes to come from me, not the host, from me, the guest. I want them to be from that. I want them to be insightful. I want them to be sound bites. I want them to be complete tips or thoughts. And it'll give them to you. And then you do have to be careful and make sure you're asking for it short enough, no longer than 2 sentences. And when you do that, it's going to give you all those. You can use a tool like Opus.pro and drop it in and get 20, 30 highlights from an interview. Pick and choose the ones you want, create the captions, have your clips all done and ready. And now you've got about 20 weeks worth of clips if you want them. So all of these are not something you can expect the host to give you. We at Podetize and anyone who's managed under our podcasting has 7 assets only. We don't give them more than 3 clips of a show. So chances are pretty good the host got clips of themselves and maybe one of you. So you're going to definitely want to do this piece beyond doing the sharing of their stuff. If you just rely on their stuff, the host stuff, it's not enough and it's not centered and focused on what you want. Something we use as a specific share for the hosts, and you may want to do this if you don't receive it, we call it ego bait. So remember I told you I used to write for Inc. magazine? Well, I thought the Inc. logo was like a really big deal, and who wouldn't want to put that on their website and share that in their social? And they would do stuff like they would put as featured in, and then they put the Inc. logo, but they'd never even link to the article. They'd never even say anything about the article. They'd never really read or quote out what I said about them or their company in the article. And it was a huge miss. So I started to send an email that had this graphic in it, the one on the far right in the orange. And I would send out this graphic and I would say, hey, here's something you can share on your social media. You can also embed this in your website. And here's how you do that. Put it on your press page and make sure you link to this link. And I would give them the full length article link So it wasn't Inc.com, and then somebody had to go find the article, which is next to impossible when you have a magazine that's also closed, right? That expects people to be signed in. So this way they would go specifically there and it'd be one of your free articles. So that was another reason why I did this and I started to share this. We called it ego bait because somehow it stroked the ego of that guest that I had or that person that I interviewed, and they would finally share it. We increased our shares by 80% from sending out the email that says you were featured to sending them out this and getting them to share it immediately. So these are things that hosts should be doing. They're not. I can tell you that they're not, because it dramatically changes the sharing that happens when they come on our platform. So I know that they're not doing it ahead of time and they are doing it after. But here's the really key thing. This quote, if you're going to put the picture of the host and you on it, this quote should be something the host said about you. So here in the case of the corner, it's the Binge Factor. And that's my show. I interviewed Pat Flynn, who's considered to be the godfather of podcasting. I'm the queen, so, but I learned from the godfather. And so I said about him when he was on my show, I actually said this quote, Pat Flynn is one of the best teachers, not just for podcasting, but for creating a whole digital business. He was so excited because I said a key word that mattered to him that actually was about what he was selling next. Whole digital business, a digital business. That's what his whole new business was focused on. So when he shared this out, he shared out the hashtag digital business. He keeps sharing this. I'd say he shares it about 2-3 times a year easily. And that, I think we did that interview in 2021. So it's fairly old and he's still sharing it because it has high value, because it's something someone else said about you. This is the case. I was on Juliet's show. Juliet said something really great. I could use this with my clients. Tracy Hazzard is redefining the media landscape with her ability to uncover the binge-worthy factor in any podcast. That's perfect for me to send out to my clients. So I want to make sure this is front and center on my website, that it's on a page that maybe even looks like a testimonial and media combined. So these are really valuable. So when you think about those quotes, that's why I was sharing this with you. When you think about those quotes, tips are different than quotes. That's how we look at them. Tips are digestible ideas that maybe relate to your product, your company, your content, your book, and they're giving insights, sound bites. They're complete ideas that you're giving someone. They're not about you. They're not about the host. They're not about the show. They're about something that the reader is going to care about. That's really important. With clips and highlights, you can use both. You can mix between both because you're going to have many, many purposes for those. So these are really important ways to think about what you're sharing. We call them the assets, right? And making them up as soon as you get your podcast episode back, or as soon as you know it aired, it published. And then we're going to go one step further with the stuff we created. We're going to share it and connect with the host. We're going to thank the host. If there were other guests on the panel or on the show, we want to make sure we tag them as well and say it was a pleasure being associated with you. I was so loved what you had to say. If you do some of this stuff ahead of time, and I say this really carefully, don't ask when something's going to air, right? You can thank the host immediately afterwards and ask for the assets as soon as they're available, but don't ask when it's going to air. So the sooner you have something to be able to create your own social media with, the better it is. Sometimes some hosts will give it to you and some will say, I'm sorry, but you have to wait till it publishes. Whatever you do, though, don't push them on when it's going to air. They'll usually tell you, it's going to come out in 2 weeks anyway. You'll have everything you need then. That's okay. You're just asking them, thanking them for being on the show, and asking them if they can provide you anything ahead of time. Ask about reusing it. Are you allowed to reuse the transcript? Are you allowed to reuse the video? Are you allowed to reuse clips of it? Just make sure that you have that. You should ask it. It should be clear at the time that you are being interviewed. You should ask at that time. But if you didn't ask after. just make sure that you have permission to utilize it, to cut it up, to do what you want. You can absolutely cut up anything that has your voice in it. But if you're sharing something that has their voice or another guest's voice in it, be very cautious about that and ask for permission first. We want to cross promote. So we do actually want some of that content that has the other guests or my host in it. I want to have this opportunity to do an Instagram collab or a highlight that we were both on each other's shows. So very often I have a podcaster on the Binge Factor, and then I go on their show. And then we have an opportunity to reshare clips from both shows together in the same Instagram story. And we tag the other person with a proper collab. And if you don't know how to do it, there's a whole bunch of stuff on how to do this in Instagram. I'm not an Instagram expert. My team does this part for me. But basically what it is you tag them out in it. They accept the tag. And what happens is that in that collab, more of their audience is going to see the story, or more of their audience is going to see the post. So it creates an opportunity for anytime you're posting for both of your audiences to see that post equally. So that's the idea. So we definitely want to do something with both of you in it. It has higher power. You don't need to do it every time. You just need to do it. Definitely do it in the first couple of weeks in the beginning once you have that. And then maybe do it a few times a year. That's what Pat Flynn does. And because of it, he keeps tapping into my power and I keep benefiting from his. I have this plan for you. So you can go to podetize.com/social plan. I created a forwarding to it. There's nothing to sign in for. You just get to download it. This is something we've been using a really long time. If you have 7 social medias and you publish 7 days a week, you can have 42 different shares, completely different if you follow this plan. Basically, it's fairly simple. You're going to have 7 assets. You're going to figure out how many times a day or where you're going to post them. And then you're going to rotate them, because this is the mistake that I see everybody doing. They share the same type of post on all their social media on the exact same day. So if I share one of those quotes and I share it on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, on Facebook, everyone who happens to be in multiple places sees the exact same post that day. But if I mix it up, if I share a quote one day, a clip the next, maybe the cover art from the show, so I'm sharing the show the next day. I share one of those stories the third day. Like, you just keep going on it like that through the 7 days and rotating them differently. And so on Monday, it's on Instagram. On Tuesday, that same clip is on LinkedIn. And then it's on YouTube. And then it's on Facebook. And you keep rotating that. You spread it out and you have more likelihood for new people to see it, because you didn't share it all at the same time on all of the same day. You spread it out. The best part about it is if you really do this and you plan all these and you get them all out, you don't have to share them in the same week. You don't have to share them at all. You can spread it out and have 42 weeks worth of shares. So almost an entire year worth of shares. And then if you add in, probably 10 shares that the author's going to do or the host of the show is going to do, then you can definitely have a full year's worth of shares from one guest opportunity. Think about all of that power. Okay, I'm going to pause here for a minute and see if you guys have any questions before we go on in the next section.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment about the asking if you can make clips on the show. I do that all the time, and the hosts are thrilled. They're
usually thrilled. You're right. Absolutely.
It's their IP, so it is polite to ask, but they come back to me and go, wow, you did some really nice sharing. So that's what gets you referred to other shows too, because we all talk.
Yeah, so some people are like, oh, don't ask. You just do it anyway, and they'll be fine with it. But I'm a fan of asking because it creates this connection point with your host again, reminds them that you were on the show, reminds them that you were a good guest. And now is reminding them that you're going to be an even better sharing partner. So it's a good idea to do it just to keep that relationship going.
I think that I do a lot of this sharing, but I am so guilty of putting out. I mean, I mix it up and I spread it over time, but the same post gets put on every social at the same time, and I don't mix it up with quotes and things like that. I'm guilty of just doing clips. So this is an awesome reminder.
Yeah, this is something you can just you lay this out. Like, here's all the different assets. This is what I want you to create. This is a plan you can give your assistant. This is what I do with my assistant at the beginning of the year. We even go further where it says frequency, like 7 days a week or 2 days a week or whatever it is. We actually put timestamps on it. So we know that we're going to share at noon and 5 p.m. because I don't want them to mess up and not do it in Pacific time. So we do that as well. So you can go deeper and further and use this as a part of management, social media management with your assistants.
Because I know when you go to schedule things like on Facebook, for example, it says, your better time for Facebook is at this time. Your better time for Instagram is at this time. Do you think that's a good time frame to use?
I think
does it matter?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it doesn't matter when you're starting out. You just need, if you've never been doing that, if you haven't been sharing enough, just take the suggestions, try them. But what happens is that you're going to just start to realize when you get more comments. And when you get more comments, that's when you want to share more. So my best time to share is Sunday night. And I would have never figured it out if I didn't post at various times and try it, because that wasn't a suggested time. Because most of the social media is like, when is your audience on? Well, my audience is on Sunday nights. They're clearing their inboxes. They're getting ready for the next day. It's perfect for them. But if you don't have enough of your audience at this time interacting, or if you're going for a new audience, you need to do some experimentation. So that's what we do, is we sort of set this out, and then we start to let the algorithms refine themselves after that.
Yeah. Amanda, too, if you don't share the quotes or you don't want to pull the quotes out yourself, something like Cast Magic, I run my guest spots and my own podcast through that, and it will give you if you program the pipeline, it will give you those quotes to just cut and paste right out into whatever graphic program you're using.
I think that any AI that you use, when you start using it and really refine it, it does give you some really good content. And I don't pick things myself. I'm too prejudiced, or I'm too close to it.
The mistake that most people make is they just throw the thing in and they don't give it context. So this is remember who the audience, who do you want to see this? And tell it that you're looking for any quotes, any pieces of information. You don't just want the catchiest sound bites, which is what the AI will do and what a human being will do as well. One who doesn't know you. But if you're saying, I'm really going for an audience that's starter, that hasn't started a podcast yet, like that, if I were to do that, I want you to pull out the quotes that are going to be simple enough for them to understand that. It's going to do a much better job, and they're going to resonate on the other side. So I'm really careful to give it context. The second part of what I do with my AI when I'm asking it to look for things and do things is I chunk it. And this is an old school way that we used to have to do it, where you would break it apart into pieces. But if you want to use the cheap version of Opus Pro, you can't put a whole hour-long interview in it. You have to break it into pieces anyway. So we actually do that, was we break it up into pieces, because every 400 words, we want a quote. And the reason for that is because you progress along the way, but the AI is lazy and human assistants are lazy. And they will say, oh, I need 5 quotes. And they will go through until they get 5, and then they will stop. And the most brilliant thing you said might have been at the end. So I make it a requirement from my team and from my AI that I want to quote every 400 words. Now I don't have to chunk it. I just tell it that and it will do it. So
cool.
Okay, good. So we'll go on then. Let's see here. I got to click back on here. Here we go. So now this is this is the thing that we found has the absolute most longevity for you, the highest power, and it is the number one thing that nobody does. This is to create a blog from that episode, from that guest episode, on your website, around your book landing page, whatever it is. You want to create a blog that has some keyword phrase in it. That's not the title that the host necessarily gave it. In this particular case, I wrote, The Self-Published Author's Guide to Book Marketing with Juliet Clark. That's a pretty good keyword tag for Juliet, right? It's right in her wheelhouse. It's going to do really well. If she were to share that, that title is going to be fine. But most people will go, interview with Juliet Clark. Like, that's nothing. That's not helping you in your keywords at all. So you're going to want to retitle this. You can choose the most relevant topic you talked about, because sometimes in these interviews, we go all over the place. So you can just highlight the one thing that's most important and the topic area that is going to be most valuable to what you're trying to promote, to your business, to your book. And use that in the title. You can pull the quote graphic that you took that relates to that and put it right up at the top in that blog. So visually you're doing that. Usually we do what we call it a summary. I call it a leading paragraph, because most people put, in this episode, I talked about this. Terrible, terrible summary. That's what you get from most AI. I tell it, I want a leading paragraph that's like as good as it is in a magazine article that makes someone want to read the rest of the article. That's what you want in this. You want to intrigue someone. You want to make sure that they know that they're in the right place. You want to seed into that opening paragraph the show you were on and the host's name. That's it. You just want 4 sentences that are going to really make somebody go, oh, that's what this episode is about. And it relates to me. And it has a pretty credible host and show. I'm going to listen, watch, or read this. The reason why this blog will do better for all of you is that your audience are readers. Your audience that you want to attract will Google everything first. They won't go to TikTok. They won't go to YouTube and scroll. They will first go to Google and look for what they're looking for, because they're happy to read a blog. They're happy to read something. That's the person that's going to buy your book. So we want to make sure that our sharing is in a way also aligned with the audience type we have. If your book is all for TikTokers, then you really should only have video, right? We've got to think about that. You probably shouldn't be writing a book about it, but unless it's book TikTok for authors or something like that, that would make sense that somebody would read that. So this is the thing. In here, this is where you do need permission, or more importantly, you need to know that the host didn't do this already. Our clients all have blogs. You're going to know because you're going to receive a link to it and you're going to go, oh my gosh, Juliet, look at this amazing 6,000 word blog. It's just absolutely fantastic. It has the full transcript in it. But most of them will just have like a little short paragraph, the little player, maybe a video. That's it. They won't have the full transcript. When you're asking them for permission, ask them if you can use the transcript. If you can't, that's okay. Reach back if they say, no, I've already got a blog. I'm worried about it. Just say, would it be okay if I did it? No index, no follow, which is still good for you because it gives you something for someone to read, but not quite as powerful. It becomes secondary to their blog, but that's okay because it's like Google saying this content's valuable because it's on Juliet's site and it's on Tracy's site. So Google says Juliet's was first, so Juliet's is the one we are going to index, but we know it's over here too, and it creates a cross-link for it that's valuable. So even doing that, it gives your readers and your audience an opportunity to have the full transcript and not leave your site and go to the host. But it's not the major indexing, but your title, your new title that you gave it, and that new paragraph, that can help. It can help you key it into a phrase that maybe the host didn't use. So that's something that Google will pay attention to. Make sure you're adding all those great media elements you created, those quotes, those graphics that you created, the stories. You can embed your Instagram straight in there if you want. You don't even have to embed that Instagram quote and have it on Instagram too. You could just take Instagram and embed your Instagram right here. So it's super easy for you to be able to put the elements every 400 words. Remember, I said that that's what we want, is we want to pull stuff out every 400 words. We want to break up the visual of a very long transcript every 400 words as well. Now, I want you to go to podcastersunited.org, not right this moment, but afterwards. You are allowed to go there and benchmark and copy the format that we use. You'll see that everything that the host says is boldface and everything that the guest says is lightface. You want to reverse that. You want what you say to be boldface when you put it out. So, but what we never do is put timestamps, and we never put Tracy : Juliet : We don't do that because then Google instantly looks at it like a transcript and it has lower value than if it looks at it as a blog. And so we're, in a sense, we're reading the ability to separate the speakers without separating the speakers in a more annotated format. So this really works. We've been doing this. We've done 50,000 blogs. We have a partnership with Google. I've talked to them again and again, and our system is still highly valued. The two reasons for that are that it's very long and Google likes a lot of content. And because we use the transcript, because we didn't just rewrite it into a 600-word article, we've got voice patterning, which makes that they know that this came from a human. They absolutely know from the voice pattern because we don't clean it up. We take out ums and ahs in the writing and maybe sometimes you say the words twice, right? It just happens in our pattern of speech. We take that out, but we don't correct the way someone speaks. And that's what makes this work. That's why it's a transcript blog. It's not a blog. It's not an article. That's different. We also enrich the content. We put our links embedded in where they were said, not just at the bottom, not just at the top. They're also there. They're bullet points, which gives you your additional resources or other things. We do that. But you could also break it up. And if you can add extra stuff, you could add, this is in this chapter of my book. Here's a little quote from the book. You could add in, here's some actionable steps that I recommend that I didn't have time for on the show, and make a call out box. You can give your audience something more in this blog that helps you sell your book. This is one of the most valuable things you can do, and it lasts long term. I didn't put this as a slide here, but the next thing you can do is take what you have here and create an article and put it in somebody else's site, in some other magazine where your target audience is located. This article that we have, this blog that about the self-published author's book guide to book marketing, that when Juliet was on my show, it will be an article in one of the breakthrough author magazines. So and a lot of times I'll take a couple of blogs together and I'll turn them into an article together, or I'll take 3 of them and create the 3 ways because I had 3 different topics that I was covering. So there's always a way to take this and turn it into a 600 to 800 word article that's very useful for you elsewhere. But this has its own power, and it has one of the most long-term power that anything you do from the guest spot that you've done. This is the highest power that it will have. I want to tell you a little story about Hewlett Packard. So my very first podcast was in 3D printing. It was called WTFFF, which is the geeky term for 3D printing. What the fused filament fabrication. The show is not a swear name. And in that show, we did 600 episodes, and we had done like 625, and we stopped doing it. We said, our podcasting business is busy enough. I don't need to be podcasting about 3D printing anymore. What can we do with this? And we just left it. And so that was 2019. And the end of 2019, I kept getting emails from this woman in Europe who claimed to work for Hewlett Packard. And she kept sending me emails saying she wanted to talk with me about advertising on my show. And I was like, she doesn't know that we're not publishing anymore. So, I'm not going to take the call. She was so persistent that she found on my speaker website my booking link. She booked a speaking inquiry with me and had a phone call and said, I really want to have a partnership with you. I really want to sponsor your show. What can we do together to collaborate? And I said, are you sure? I'm not actively publishing the show new. And she said, I know, but we have spent the last year trying to unseat your blogs and your keywords in this category of 3D printing, and we cannot do it. So we need to join you. So the power of these blogs still outrank ads that they could run, any kind of promos, anything that they could do. Our blogs were outranking them. So this is going to be your long-term value. This is where you're going to really get the most. It is worth every penny of creating one of these blogs, whether you use an assistant. We create all the stuff that we do, we create for under $300 per show, per episode. So just thinking about what it can cost, value of $300 worth, what I ended up with was a $25,000 advertising deal with Hewlett Packard. Totally worth it. So thinking about how you're going to use this, the best thing, the thing that's going to sell books is making sure you're ranking on Google and sending people to your website, your business, and your landing page. The host that ran the show, they're getting value. You need to claim that value for yourself as well. When we do these power pages, that's what they're really called because they're usually 3,000 to 6,000 words. When we do them, we want to focus on the keyword and topic because we want it to read that transcript with that in mind. We want Google to think about it from that perspective. That has more power than a celebrity because a celebrity has followers who may not all be interested in that. But Google knows when it's ranking and indexing your keyword, knows that it's only sending traffic that wants that cares about that. So that has value. Someone who's interested in searching for book marketing. That's where the value lies. The other thing is that by cross-ranking, remember I told you in that very first paragraph, you're going to link the show and the host name to their website, to their show. You're going to do that because that cross-validation means that you've got more human authority. So what it happens is that if my site and Juliet's site and Juliet posts about my show and my site has higher credibility and index, the way you call it, ranking in the Google system has higher ranking than hers, by cross-linking with me and then me cross-linking back with her, we've created it so that her rank comes up closer to mine. So it's how you boost your rankings over time by doing this as well. And then keep in mind that when we have this website impact that we're trying to create, it needs to be specific, right? I don't want to connect, like I said before, to ink.com. I want the visual of that ink logo because it means something to a human being, but I want when you click it, it goes exactly to where you're providing value. Keep that in mind that you want everything to be specifically where it is. So you don't want to just rank to Juliet Clark's Promote, Profit, Publish landing page. I want to link to exactly where the episode I was on our show is, where that is located. So that's what we want to do with those to make them the most powerful possible. Now, you can take it one step further. When you have 5 or more interviews, you can showcase your PR value. You can showcase your, I'm going to call it your media portfolio, your podcast interview portfolio. We call this the Showcaster player. I am going to, I think I may have forgotten to pull that up for you, but I'm going to do that. Do I have to switch share or are you seeing tracyhazzard.com?
Nope, it followed you.
Okay, good. I was hoping it would. Let's see. We want to go here to podcast, getting sliding. Here we go. This is my speaker page. If I publish my book, which I really need to, Juliet should yell at me like every time I get on the call with her, but it would be here. This is where it would be. I have what we call a Showcaster player. This is the exact file. Anytime someone plays this podcast right here, the host gets credit. So Daniela Stockfleth Menace gets credit. This one is, when I play this, John Mendes gets credit. Like every single time somebody plays this here, they're getting a download or a play or a click through, whatever their measurement is, they're getting credit for it. I'm not stealing it, but instead of putting a logo here, which they are here, but instead of putting that here and then having it click out and go to their website, it's staying on mine. Now, if I had my book over in the sidebar while people are listening, they'd be seeing my book title. Think of the power of what you can do when you keep them. We call this the sticky player. It keeps them on your website for a long time, which boosts your Google ranking. But more importantly, this is a really quick and easy way for someone who's considering having you as a guest to vet you. Now, we go a little bit further. I've got my best interviews here. I do a lot of women entrepreneur events. So I've got episodes with women podcasters here. I talk a lot about product innovation because that's what my Inc. column was about. I've got them all here. So I've also segmented them in case I talk about a lot of different topics, or maybe you have multiple books. You could segment them into interview groupings. The reason I do this is because I have like hundreds of interviews here. It'd be too much to see if you put all of them in one page. They would be only in date order, and I want to group them in content type order. So this is unique to, we are the only one who has a player like this. You do not have to have a podcast to have a player like this. That is really the key here. We can do this with anybody's podcast. So if you want to check it out, you can go to podetize.com / we call it the showcaster with no ER, like bad spelling, but that's what it is. It's just an R. What this has done for me and for other of our clients is it gets them more bookings, because it's a really easy place for someone who's vetting speakers or vetting panels or doing something to go, oh, wow, she sounds amazing. He sounds so good. He's perfect for what I'm looking for. And they didn't have to go searching all over to do the job. You made it easy for them to say yes to you. So even if you send them to this page instead of, remember when we were talking last week, your one sheets, or instead of that, you could send them to this page and say, check out what I've talked about on other shows. I think this one might be the most relevant to you. You can invite them to click through to the one that you think would be most, have most commonality with their show. The other thing that this does is it really expands your influence, because when they start to see, look, how many interviews you have, that shows that you have higher and higher value. We start with 5 because as long as you have 5, because you're going to build on it. Every time you do one, you just add it to the player. It's just simple. You add the link of the original show's podcast episode, their episode link. You just add it into the player and it automatically gets all the information you need in it. In our system, you can update it and provide like a little more keywords. So if it says, so you'll see that none of mine say interview with Tracy Hazzard, because I guarantee you a lot of these said that. Instead, it says mastering the business of podcasting. I matched it to the topic of the blog. I can do that in our system here and override what the host wrote, but just for the player here. So there's a lot of value in matching this up. And if you want, there's also a single track player. So you could actually put the single track on the blog page as well. So this is a really underutilized value. And if you're already a podcaster and you host with us, you get your show's player that looks like this. So Juliet has a Promote, Profit, Publish one, but she can also create this playlist of her guests and use it separately on another page. They do not have to be together.
Tracy, can I add real quick for those of you, because a couple people are on tour right now with our communications company. This is a really great way to promote, because if you're on a 10 or 15 or 20 tour, you could put it all here.
Yeah. And you can do this really easily. Like it's literally fill out a form, drop in a link. You do this really easily and then come back to doing the blogs. This is the one thing I want to say about those blogs. Just because you didn't do them the week or month that your episode aired on someone else's show doesn't mean anything. You can do them years later. We get a lot of podcasters who come to us, and we call it doing back episodes because it's their back catalog of episodes. And we do 100 of them in a year, and their site just takes off and starts ranking on the keywords. It doesn't matter when it goes into your website. So you can start here because this is super simple. Have a single landing page, add it to your book landing page, do it here. And then when you're back from your tour, you can go on out and do all the rest of the other things that we talked about doing. It doesn't matter when you share stuff, as long as you did some sharing at the beginning when it first aired, because you want to capitalize on that host's goodwill and the relevance and timeliness for them. But after that, it's at your timeline. Don't forget to use it. You don't always need to be on the next new interview. You've got tons of past ones you could be reusing. So the next thing that I think people don't think about is how I can build more with my current audience. How can I use my guest interviews with my current clients? How can I use it to build a tighter relationship? How can I get them to buy the next thing? How can I make sure that my current fan base buys the next book? We too often, though, frame it as, look at me, I was on Juliette Clark's show, right? Like, it's not about us. It's about how that interview is going to help them with their challenges. This is where those great quotes, tips, those ones you're going to use here to share out. You can share it. And I personally like to share it in a personal message relationship. So if I've been building a prospective client that I really want to close, maybe somebody who's like a network or an affiliate partner for me, I might say, hey, I was just on this show recently and I was thinking of you. Here's something that I said on there. And here's the timestamp. This is the part. Respect their time. Okay. Because they know you already. So they don't need all the chit chat at the beginning of the show. It's okay for you to, in this specific case, invite them to skip around and get right to the heart of what the message you want them to see. You could even clip it for them, provide them that clip already, and then invite them to listen to the entire show. So this is a great way for you to do that. If you have a newsletter or you participate in other people's newsletters, featuring this without saying, hear me on this show. No, this is why they should listen to it. There's something really valuable. There's insights here. Make them teasers. Make it about the best moments that are happening in that show. You want them to not go, okay, so, she was on that show. That's great. Oh, look, she rubbed elbows with so-and-so host. That's great. That's part of the impression you want to leave. But if your audience are readers, they're going to go check that out. They're going to click through. They're actually reading the newsletter. And they're going to click through that, and then they're going to go check out that interview. And that something that you say over there might just be the thing to close it. That has happened to me more often than not, because I've been saying week over week over week in my coaching calls or in my own podcast, I'll be saying these things. But the minute I go on somebody else's show and it connects, this is relevant to me as an author, all of a sudden they close as a client. So this can be really valuable for you. These are the 3 ways I do it. I took it as featured on. So when I'm mentioning the show, that's how I frame it. I say I was on this, not look at me on this. I was featured on this. We want to use the third-party credibility and we want an image of their cover art, especially if it's good. If it's not good, if it has a picture of them on it, that's good for you. It's bad for them. They don't know it, but it's good for you because now I'd be like, maybe I recognize that person as a famous person in our niche or a valuable authority in our niche. So especially if that's the case, you want the 2 things to go side by side. When you're selected as being a guest expert, that has its own value, right? So one value is I was on that show. I was selected. That means I must have something to say. The second is, did I say something valuable on there? So I'm looking for where are those value first? Where is the value that I added? Everything should be positioned as tips, not self-promotion. And then anything that I can do in a follow-up as a relationship building, whether it's with the host, with the community, with my own group. Sometimes I will send out an email or I'll even do it in social media. I might send a link. I might make a LinkedIn comment and say, hey, Juliette, when I was interviewing on this show, I thought of you because of this point in the conversation, and tag her in the comment. So you can relationship build in your shares, in an email, in a private one-on-one way, in your community groups, when you're right here on your coaching calls or your webinars and you say, oh my gosh, Billy, I just was thinking of you the other day when I gave this interview and I talked about this story. You share it again. You share an anecdote from that. That makes them feel seen and makes them really want to go back and listen to it. So once you have some of these things all set up and you've got all this, I know you guys are placing ads. Some of you, there's nothing about promoting a book that isn't difficult. So you've gone through ad placements. You've gone through these things. You're going to make some paid promotions. What if you made some paid promotions that were about the content, not about selling the book? What if you mixed it up a little? Could you get some more value? Could you get some more attention? Could you get some more association and brand reinforcement I am an authority in the niche. That's really why you should read the book. That's what we want to do, is create that kind of cross promotion that's going on with our paid promotions and our content. Can we do it? Can we boost the interview we were on in some way, shape, or form? We do something we called PromoCast. I mentioned it, and I'm going to show you. We're going to try and get the audio working this time because Tom told me it didn't work last time. But this is what I look for. I look for an opportunity to get this in front of more eyes so that they can see more, they can view it, they see any piece of my content. And it doesn't matter to me whether it's my own content or somebody else's, as long as they're consuming it and seeing it, right? So if something valuable happened and it's because of the association of the two of us, that's valuable. So typically our PromoCast stuff that we do is an advertisement that is placed at the bottom of a popular app. So it might take over the screen. If you've ever seen that take over, it'll take over the whole vertical, or it just takes over a bottom of it and it forces you to watch the ad for 15 seconds before you can go back to your app. It primarily happens on free apps, not on paid ones. So in this case, this was like a popular news app and then an advertisement for a clip from the book, actually, but it can be a clip from the podcast, a clip from whatever, was running at the bottom of this for 15 seconds. There is sound and no video. Most of these are static. So you want a compelling image and sound. You want to say something valuable in 15 seconds. And when they click through to your book landing page or your podcast landing page or whatever it is that you choose. You want to make sure that that's well done. So they're clicking through into something valuable. This is the kind of metrics we like. We like to do 500,000 views per month, 300 to 500 click-throughs. I know it seems low. Like people are like, oh, I'm going to get you 50,000. But how many of them are really critically valuable to you? What I can tell you is somebody who listens to a podcast is more likely to read a book than somebody who watches TikTok videos. Just bound to happen because their attention span is longer. Their interest is deeper. They want bigger story. They want the story. So they're more likely to do that. So if I got 300 podcast listeners to click through, I'd be way happier than I would if I got 300 TikTok to click through, because they probably wouldn't buy. And then the cost per result can really range. It depends on what you're spending. But if you don't want to spend $20 if your book is $20. You want to spend 20 cents. This is typical cost per results, has to be matched to your meaningful audience. I can spend $5 to $20 because I'm going to sell a $2,500 or $5,000 program on the other side, but you may not. The great thing about our PromoCast program is it's like $2,500 or something, Juliet, overall for like a year. Is that what it is? I don't even know. I don't sell it.
It's $2,600 for 3 months.
$2,600. Yeah. So you're talking about a very low rate. If you're getting 500 click-throughs per month, that's a lot. So you're talking about, pennies for the views that you're receiving or for the click-throughs that you're receiving. Okay. Let's see if I can get this to play so you can see what it does with the sound. Are you hearing the sound? Let me see. Screen sharing. I don't see anything where it says to share the sound. Let me see if I pop it into a new window, if we can do it that way. No?
No. A couple people on the call have actually already bought this too. If you guys go over to the page that we sent out for the replay, which was, what was it here? It was podcastbookpromo.com. When you opt in to watch the replay, there is a demo there.
So when we do this, we do 25 different clips that play on apps, 25 different 15-second clips. So you could highlight a whole bunch of different shows and episodes you've been on. You could put your book up there. You could put your picture up there. There's a whole bunch of different things that you could rotate through and see what's working. And then when you find out that it's really working, and in this case, what what you're seeing is we really found that the graphic itself from the book is just, I mean, it captures people's attention. It's what they see the most, and they click through because of it. They're very curious. They're very curious about the way the spelling is. That's because that book cover was so well done, Juliet. You should be really proud of that one. Let's see. Let me get back here. There's a couple more things I have. So anyway, if you want to learn more, go to podetize.com inquiry or go back to the book page. I'm going to show you one other thing you can do. You can take all of your guest spots. So if you don't have your own podcast and you don't have your own show, you can now feed it into an AI clone of you. Imagine if you had something that was willing to talk about your book, talk about the expertise area, talk about whatever it is that you want, but you have to have enough content to fill it. So my daughter asked me just yesterday, because I was playing with this. This is brand new, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. Playing with this yesterday, and I've trained this on 4.5 million words. In fact, today it might even be over 5, because it's adding to the library every single day. And when I did it, my daughter looks at me and she goes, "That's really cool. Could I have a clone?" And I said, "Well, do you have any content besides, an Instagram post?" And she says, "No." I go, "Well, then we have to create some content. You have to get it from somewhere if you want to have expertise, unless you are willing to put your book in there, because then it would be a great Q&A. So here's what I've got. This is called, what the chatbot looks like. You can embed it on a web page. Right now, I'm just in the main app. This is just my published clone, but you can ask it. It tells you a little bit about you. You can ask it any questions. What advice would you give to? It's kind of preceding some questions. And then, but you can type in and say, how can podcasting help an author sell more books? And so all I do is hit return there. And this is me playing with it before, and in moments, it's answered the question. And it's usually a pretty good answer. I'm still training it. So, we're still refining things. And it's not too short, right? It just gave you a pretty complete answer. You can shorten it. You can lengthen it. You can do what you want with it from that standpoint. But so it's telling you, and in fact, it's probably regurgitating a lot of my last webinar because I just put it in here. So, but it says podcasting is an incredibly powerful tool for authors looking to sell more. But look at this down here. I can click read aloud, and I don't know that this is going to play for you, but I can click read aloud, and it's actually in my voice. Can you hear that? No. Bummer. I can't get the sound to. I don't have the ability to do that here. Like your player things doesn't.
I know. Tracy, if you send those.
Wait. I found it.
Okay.
I found it. Here, try this now. Except it's loading.
Podcasting is an incredibly powerful tool for authors looking to sell more books because it creates a direct personal connection with your audience while offering multiple ways to promote your work. Here's how it works. 1. Builds an engaged audience before your book launch. Starting a podcast before.
Do you see it? If the shorter answers have more energy to them, sound a little bit more like me. The longer answers are a little more, I'm going to call it, it's like the teacher version of me, right? They're a little more pedantic, but it still sounds enough like me that when they hear me on the podcast later, they don't think anything of it. They know they're interacting with a clone here, but they're still amazed at the answers. So this is one way you can do by adding in all of your guest interviews. You're adding in a lot more content. And the best part about it is when you do it, you can have it ignore the other speaker. So if you have other speakers in there, like you were on a panel, you can have them ignore the other speakers and just highlight you. Or you can have it ingest all of it because the topic's relevant and it rounds out your topic. So a lot of times Tom and I are doing an interview together, or Julia and I are doing it. I want what Julia has to say because I want to make sure to highlight that. And then what you see here is you see these little annotations. they go exactly to the podcast episode or to the place where I talked about this. This happens to be coming from an interview I did with Scott Carson. So it's not even from my own podcast. So these are some great. So you can go to podetize.com/Tracy-AI and play with my clone. So you could go ask any questions you want, play with it. I invite you to do it. And I invite you to give me feedback because I'm training the clone right now. And it's going to take a month or two of training of asking it enough questions that are the right kind of questions before it's ready for prime time. So like my son-in-law did it last night, Juliet, and he started asking me about my kids because he wanted to see how personal it would get. And did it spit out everything? But guess what? It forgot Alexandra. It said I had 2 daughters, not 3. And he's married to my 3rd daughter that it forgot.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And so then he sends back and he says, don't you have a 3rd daughter? And it says, oh, yes, I'm sorry. I forgot. And I have a daughter who, and at that time, who's 28 years old, which she's not now, but. And so anyway, so this is kind of fun. This is something new to play with and do. I'm going to stop the sharing here.
Any questions, you guys? I wanted to mention, Tracy mentioned that author promocast. There's a big article in CNBC today. They are going to be adding AI in the future. And it's a big article about Alibaba added AI to their platform. And they got extraordinary results from it. So did want to mention that.
Anytime you have something, and see, this is why Google ads don't do as well. And they're too generalized. Anytime you have something where it's basing it on actions that are taking. So like we have this newsletter, we use a tool called Rasa. And in the Rasa newsletter, if somebody's clicking on articles that are written by Juliet or any of the podcast episodes by Juliet, the newsletter is now, we're just testing this part too, but it's now able to say, well, that person is highly likely to be interested in self-publishing, is interested in book marketing, is interested in something Juliet has. Now would be a great time to funnel and make that introduction with an email sequence. And so it's going to actually make automatic triggers now. And I'm writing the sequence for you. You're going to be my guinea pig, Juliet.
I'm always her guinea pig. So.
I know.
All right. Any questions? I know we're running over and I have an appointment in a few minutes.
Oh.
So, thank you very much. And where can we find you if somebody wants to talk to you about this more?
So come find me on LinkedIn. Friend me on LinkedIn. That's the easiest way. And then you can figure out everything else after that. We'll get connected.
Okay, great. I will talk to you later today. Tell your daughter happy birthday.
I will. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.